Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal on a beautiful, really beautiful Monday morning. It's 7 degrees here in British Columbia, which would make it 45 in American. So it's still on the cooler side, but it's wonderful. Sun's out, blue skies with dappled clouds. Don't get to see that very often. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody's taken a paintbrush and just gone boom, 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 boom all over them. Really pretty. Well, for my weekend update, obviously, it was a sad weekend, as some of you will have seen on the previous vlogs that I put up over the weekend. One of our viewers, unfortunately, his fiancée of less than a week was hit by a bus in Los Angeles, and he got that call whilst he was talking to us on a broadcast, and it was obviously a devastating shock to him. Even though at the time, you know, he rushed to LA to be with her, she didn't make it through the day. And so, but it also was a devastating shock to the viewers who were on the broadcast at the time. And so what I wanted to do actually in terms of today's vlog was talk a little bit about how to deal with that sort of level of shock. But having said that, there were some incredible acts of kindness and incredible acts of friendship. And you know who you are, and you know what you did. And so great work, everybody. I think it's really wonderful that you prove the fact that friends don't necessarily live on your doorstep. They can live very far away, and without you ever knowing, they'll be there for you. So I want to talk about how to deal with, I've got somebody who wants to get past me, but you know, there is no way you're getting past me. Why don't you go up on the pavement like I do? You've got a dirty great SUV. It's built to go off-road. Just climb the pavement. Oh, maybe that's not a good thing to say today. Anyway. Gosh, it's amazing how impatient people are. There's no way that he could get past me, but boy, was he riding my bumper to try to. I mean, I gave him every inch I could safely give him, and he's still crawling my bumper. Interesting. So how do we deal with shock? And I think that's a subject. I think the way we deal with shock is probably as different as the number of people that get hit by it. But my experience, and perhaps the viewers can let us know how they deal with it, because everybody needs to find a way of dealing with it, because you are going to get a shock in your life, and you will find that if the shock is severe enough, or if it is deep enough for you, then what will happen is you will go numb. Now, what I mean by numb is that you will almost stop feeling anything, because your body is very clever. It actually shuts you down so that your heart doesn't break. And when I say shut you down, it's almost like, you know, it shuts down feelings for things. And suddenly you don't care about anything for the time being. You know what I mean? You don't really care about eating. You don't really care about routine, you don't really care about anything, you just want to sit and do nothing. And that's quite normal. And that is what I'd like to call, the first reaction to it. I'm going to put up a link, if I remember, and if I don't, please remind me, to a couple of videos that I did a couple of years ago about loss, because I think they would be beneficial to some of the viewers now. Two things. Number one, understand that whether this shock happened to you or to somebody else, you end up in a cycle of loss. All of us do. All of us that were intimately involved, we were all on the broadcast at the time that telephone call came through. We will actually all suffer from some level of loss because we lost the happiness we were all feeling around the happy couple who just got engaged just a week before. And we lost that. And for sure, graded too. And I cannot encourage you enough to be very aware of where you're at in that space. I know we had some viewers who were more deeply hit than others, mainly because they took it on too deeply. And I don't mean that by any disrespect whatsoever. It's just the boundaries aren't there to stop the hurt going that deep. Now, that is difficult to say, but it is a reality. I think when you talk to people who deal with deep sorrow on a sort of almost daily basis, I'm thinking about ministers, doctors, whatever, what they have trained themselves to do is to put in a boundary. I will hear the sad news, I will feel compassion, but I will not take it on to a deep level where it affects me too much. Now, obviously, it affects different ways depending on your connection. I think for example, a minister, if it's his favorite parishioner, and I'm sure they have them, then it will affect them more deeply than if it's somebody who really, was a parishioner. Or with a doctor, if it's his favorite patient, or the one that, he cared about a great deal for whatever he or she, at whatever level. It will affect them a little more deeply, but they've all had to build in these personal filters that say, I cannot afford to take it on because I have other patients with whom I have to interact. So, how do you do that? My recommendation is, if you can, be really aware of your mind and where it's taking you. And I say this a lot to people because what happens is we sort of have this tendency to get sucked right in. And one of the things that I found really helpful is that as I feel myself getting drawn in and I'm getting really sad, first of all, I give myself permission to feel the pain. That's a very important part. Feel the pain. But as the saying goes, feel the pain, but the suffering is a choice. So I feel the pain. I gave myself sort of 24 hours to feel the pain. And then my job is to claw my way back out of that and start functioning at, I would say, at about 75% if I can. 75% means I must learn how to laugh again and not feel guilty about it. I don't know, for those of you who are listening to this, and maybe we're on the broadcasts that we did for the rest of the weekend, I tried very hard to bring the laughter back. But part of me felt almost disrespectful in doing that. But here was what I knew. If people started to laugh again, they would start to heal again. And not necessarily heal totally, because we will never be the same again. But what they would start to do is to be able to breathe again, and to see that life goes on. Now, I wouldn't expect that for Gray, or his family, or Mei Ling's family. It's like, you know, they're going to be in heavy grieving for many, many, many months, and maybe the rest of their lives for some. Because grieving is a very personal thing. So, but for the rest of us, the best support we can be to somebody who's grieving is compassionate but not overwhelmed. And I would encourage all of you who are suffering some level of overwhelm is to keep in touch with your buds from the broadcast and let them know, or let me know, so that we can sort of help bring you out wherever we can. So I'm going to go back to what do I do. So number one, I give myself time to feel the pain. After that, I start clawing my way back. How do I do that? I start distracting my brain. In other words, if my brain wants to go into sadness, I go, okay, we don't get to do that yet. And I will go and clean something or cook something, or find some unedited video that I've been meaning to put up and haven't had a chance to, which is what I did. Do something preferably creative, because that helps. Do something that keeps you moving, you know, up and down the stairs, stuff that makes your blood flow, brings oxygen to your brain. But whatever you do, do things that will distract you from sitting and thinking. I have always said that from my personal experience, depression for me was built-in anger at some level. So it would be easy for me to take on what happened to Gray and be angry about it. And if I get angry about it, then I will get depressed about it at some level. That's my experience. So I don't want to do that, because I can't help anybody if I'm doing that. So the trick is, not trick, it sounds crass somehow, but my personal experience is that I need to be aware and then keep distracting my brain. So if I find myself sitting too long and thinking and not doing anything, do you know what I mean? When you just sit and suddenly you're daydreaming about the sadness, then I'd get up and go and do something else for a while, and then come back and do a bit more editing. By the way, I have noticed my dream pattern has changed. Why? Because I don't know. I'm going to describe this as the best way I can. I like to think that when I go to bed at night, I have a librarian, and I'm going to call him Jones, just so that people can understand. It's easier to put this in a picture. But when I go to sleep at night, my internal librarian, called Jones, goes to work trying to file all the bits of information that he's heard that day, in case I need it again. Now, as I get older, his filing system isn't quite as good as it used to be, or maybe it's because he's getting older, but never mind, he still does it. And so when you've had huge amount of emotional stress, obviously that brings with it a huge amount of stuff that you're taking in, and poor Jones has got to find places to put it all, because he needs to know, does he need to keep this at the forefront? Can he file this away in a filing cabinet in the back room of my brain, you know, whatever. He has to work out where all these bits of information need to go. And so I believe that that's what happens when we're dreaming, is, you know, Jones is busy trying to work out. And that's why you'll find that in your dreams you get little bits of information from your day filtering in. It's Jones going, okay, where do we put this bit? So that's the way I describe it anyway. So if it's been a highly charged day, you're going to get some more highly charged dreams. So yes, I have found that I've been dreaming a lot more, and I can remember those dreams. And I'd like to suggest that is normal under the circumstances. So I'm pretty sure that the viewers who were there with me when we were doing that broadcast will have had some shift in their dream patterns. They will have had some shift in their day-to-day lives. And some are coping better than others. And remember, this is about how do you cope with this. Nobody does it easily, right? This sort of devastating shock isn't something you can do easily. This is something that requires that you get control, and that's why it's called coping, because you have to learn how to cope with it. It doesn't matter how angry you get or how frustrated you get. It still happened. It is what it is. It happened. And as much as we want to, we cannot take somebody else's pain away from them. We can help them take the step from where they are, maybe one step closer, when it's a good time. For example, it will take some time for Gray to even consider taking a step away from the space he's in right now. Why? Because the brain is grieving. The heart is grieving. It'll take a long time. And as I've said before, you know, for those of you who've lost family members, loved ones, children, you all know that you learn eventually, time doesn't take away the pain, but you learn to cope with it. And that's the difference. You will never be the same again. Whether somebody's been taken away from you, or somebody's betrayed you, or somebody has, you know, done something really nasty, you'll never be quite the same again. But that doesn't mean you can't be happy and that you can't live an active and productive life. It means somehow, bit by bit, you're going to put that terrible experience into a back filing cabinet and say, it's always going to be there. Can't take it away, it happened. But I don't have to suffer every day. And my experience of having that level of pain is that you have to, well, you don't have to, you may choose to work on limiting the amount of suffering every day. And it requires that you do something different. It's a good idea to be amongst people who really care about you, because they will probably make sure that you get fed and hydrated, and that you get outside whether you want to or not, that you go out whether you want to or not, that you interact whether you want to or not. That's one of the great things about family and friends, is sometimes their best role is just to keep you, moving forward slowly. So take it easy on yourselves, those of you who have felt it. For those of you who've had your own sadness this week or any other week, just know that it is not a nice thing. We all know that. And the older you get, the more you have to deal with it. And quite honestly, the more you get to see the reality of it. And therefore, in a way, those of us who are older are more protected because we've learned to put down those barriers that go, well, this is really heartbreaking, but I cannot afford to break my heart. Too many people depend on me. I can grieve in my own time, but I mustn't punish everybody around me for it. I don't know if that makes any sense. All right, everybody. So, knowing that you are perfectly normal, knowing that everybody will grieve in their own way, knowing that asking for help is a sign of strength. If any of the viewers are struggling more than they think they should be, feel free to write and let's see what we can do to help. But let's not forget the sun came out today. And one of the greatest ways I found to get myself out of a funk is do something for somebody else. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to make sure that my attention today is as much on other people as it is on myself. This is Dear Mama Sal saying thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye for now.